All right, let's move on to what's going on with Elon. So yesterday, he put out a post and the White House confirmed his time as a special government employee, boy was this ever special, has come to a close and he's moving on, but he assures us the work of Doge is only gonna become more and more important as things move forward. Okay, sure, whatever, buddy. But he had already, and you and Emily touched on this briefly, but we wanted to dig in more. He has started to be a little more openly critical of the Trump administration as he is, being pushed out the door here. And as Doge has been proven to be, by their own metrics, a total and complete failure.
Yeah.
Total and complete failure. Now, I never thought that Doge was about really like cost cutting and efficiency. And if the metric is Elon's companies aren't going to be regulated anymore, it was a roaring success. But if the metric was actually cutting spending and increasing efficiency, you failed on both accounts. You went in the wrong direction on both accounts. So in any case, Elon has come out now in this interview that I think is supposed to air this weekend in full, criticizing Trump's quote unquote big beautiful bill because of the amount that it increases the budget deficit. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
And Ryan, I had found it interesting that the All In guys, we played some of this on Tuesday, the All In guys, except for David Sachs, who even he was like, well, it's the best we can do. It's not like he was out there singing the praises of this bill. I thought that was indicative of the tech right that are aligned with Elon really souring on some aspects of this administration.
Yeah, the tech guys want easy money. They want to go back to the days where they had 0% interest rates. And those are their heady days. Like any company they wanted to launch, any idea they had,
they could get funded. Throw
it against the wall. Elon wants that as well as, and because of his mission to get to Mars, like that. That's his driving passion. That and making sure that all these regulators who are investigating him are no longer investigating him. Because your point is a very important one. For all of its failures, he did succeed in gutting all of these elements of the agencies that were investigating all of his companies.
And even the ones that might credibly in the future investigate his companies, like the CFPB.
Yeah, yes, exactly. But his overriding goal is to get to Mars. And he knows that the only way you do that is by marshaling the resources of the richest country in the history of the world, the United States, and that's the United States federal government. And so he wanted to get the finances of the federal government in order so that it was able to pursue this Mars shot project. And a $7 trillion tax cut doesn't get him anywhere close to that.
Right.
Plus the failure on the Doge side. No tears for him because he had a real opportunity, and he has bipartisan, or he had in the past bipartisan support. Democrats are the ones that buy all his cars. People recognize what he's done with SpaceX, and
Obama was critical for Tesla and SpaceX, by the way.
So if he had come in and spent a little bit of time getting to know an agency or the federal government overall, and identified ways that you could improve them and make them more efficient, he would be at a 70% approval rating.
Yeah.
Because there are ways, the government is inefficient.
Yeah.
There are things you can do. Federal workers would like nothing more than to make the federal government more efficient.
Right.
The key thing that he's identified now, and he says he's going to continue to work on it, is upgrading the software and the computer systems the government uses, which is boring, but which is actually a genuinely essential thing that this government needs to do. Like you go into these HHS or wherever, it looks like you're walking into the 1990s. It's shocking what the IRS is using to try to do taxes.
So when I was first out of college, I worked for a government contractor on government accounting systems. And my client that I worked with was the federal court system. And this was in the early 2000s, so we're not talking about the Stone Age here. some of the federal courts were still tracking these complex joint and several relationships where you have hundreds of defendants and different levels of restitution. They were still tracking them with pen and paper on a ledger. And there would be like one person at the court. I'm thinking of Maine in particular. I'll never forget. There was this one elderly lady who knew what it all meant. And if she died or retired, you were screwed. You would have no idea what these cases meant. No idea. Because some of it was not even really trackable by pen, and it was just in her head. And so, I mean, this was like 2005. So, 20 years ago now, but not the Stone Ages. And that's where you still were. And every court in the country had a different system. And so I am well aware of the ways in which the government accounting and other systems are incredibly archaic, clunky, all of that. But I also do know from that experience too, you can't just come in as some hotshot 20-year-old hacker and think that you're going to be able to just figure this out overnight with, an AI bot or whatever, because it is sort of held together with duct tape and glue. You have to know where that duct tape and glue is, and it's going to be a complicated project to unwind. But I totally agree with you. Elon had the power because he owns Twitter and because he is this, larger than life weird personality who can garner all this media attention. If he picked one of these projects, like the retirement records in the salt mine or whatever, to automate and say, okay, this used to take a year, now it takes a day. It's done. And I think they could have had the capability. Then you could have built some trust and goodwill to expand out. If you actually wanted to, if you're actually focused on cutting costs, we all know where the fat is the Pentagon, and it's with Medicare fraudsters. It's not hard to figure out. They did not find, to my knowledge, you tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think they found a single fraudulent payment. They found some programs they don't like, the transgenic mice or whatever. They found some things that they ideologically opposed.
Right.
I did not hear about a single instance of fraud that they were able to actually root out, which is astonishing.
Right.
It actually makes me think, there must be less fraud in government than people sort of assume, because they were not able to find a single solitary instance of it. But the other point is a really important one. You have to hold these two thoughts in your head. That doesn't mean it wasn't consequential. It will take years to rebuild. In the same way that, what they're doing to science and what they're doing to, foreign students coming over, it will take generations to rebuild that trust, if it is even possible to do at this point, if those people don't just look to China and other places. It would take years of intentional rebuilding to bring back, the Department of Education, USAID, the CFPB, the full functionality of the Social Security Administration. There has been real damage done to these agencies, and specifically to their ability to regulate companies like SpaceX, like Tesla, and other giant businesses in this country and around the world. So the impact has been profound, even as the actual results, as advertised, were a total, complete, undeniable failure that even the right has admitted is a total and complete failure. They had their cope around why and what happened and whatever, but they aren't even pretending that this was a success at this point.
Yeah, you can put up B3. He also did an interview with the Washington Post, which is worth a full read. Where he says that Doge is just becoming the whipping boy for everything. So something.
I thought that was kind of the point of Doge, though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he acted like it. So something bad would happen anywhere, and we would get blamed for it, even if we had nothing to do with it. He also expressed dismay over the reputational hit his companies took. People were burning Teslas. Why would you do that? That's really uncool. He
reminds me of that meme. No, I said F your feelings. Right. My feelings are precious, like a baby bird.
Yeah. And he. Clearly he's not listening to us, because we told him this right at the very beginning. Right. For instance, we said, look, if you come in with a chainsaw, a literal chainsaw on stage, and start sending notices to air traffic controllers that they should retire early, which they did, in which they then later said, oh, that was a mistake.
Right.
But you do it with this vindictive joy that you're in here with a wrecking ball, a chainsaw to destroy this place. What that does is anytime, and this is what we said immediately, anytime anything happens after that,
it's going to be your fault.
People are going to logically point back to you, even if it wasn't your fault. Even if this would have happened anyway. You broke it, now you own it. So, and you flamboyantly broke it.
Right.
You broke it in this like circus-like way,
Right.
drawing the entire attention of the world onto you, saying, "Look what I did! Look what I did!" And then when people are like, "Oh, well, why is this stuff is all broken?" You're like, "Well, why is everybody so angry at me?
Right.
It's so mean. Like these Teslas are fine. Why are you attacking the Teslas?"
Right. Why do you have this ill will? And that was the other part that was so predictable. Like, it's no mystery who the top customer of Tesla is going to be.
Liberals.
Liberals, wealthy liberals in particular,
Yes.
like well-off liberals. That is Tesla's customer base. And there is no one you are pissing off more in this country than like well-off liberals who might be consumers of your cars. And at the same time, that Chinese EVs, you know, if you zoom out from beyond the United States, and we know the way he's meddled in politics in all kinds of countries around the world and is even less popular in other countries than he is here, like in Europe, they have other options. The Chinese EVs, frankly, are kicking your ass at this point. So they've got other alternatives, and which is why, you know, I think it's going to be very difficult for Tesla to reclaim its, you know, its sort of preeminent spot in the EV space, because you have all of this toxicity around Elon, you know, him out there doing his Roman salute and all of that, and meddling and backing up the AfD in Germany, and, you know, getting involved in the UK and in ways that were even too extreme for the far-right party there as well. That stuff doesn't just go away. And so maybe if there were no other alternatives, but the EV market is developing rapidly, and there are other alternatives now, so people don't have to associate themselves with your, you know, with your brand if they don't want to. We were, there was Krystal apparently had his Tesla to face. Don't laugh, Ryan.
Somebody put a sticker on it.
Don't laugh. Is that what happened? Someone put a sticker on it?
Yeah.
What did it say? I didn't follow the details.
It said Elon Musk is a Nazi. And it wasn't even a sticker. It was a piece of paper that was taped
on.
with Scotch tape. So
okay, so he's going to be okay.
Yeah, he's
going to be okay.
Be all right.
But I mean, most people are not going to be wanting to court that kind of attention, you know?
Yeah.
And most people don't want their car to be some sort of like weird political statement,
Right.
or for anyone even to potentially interpret it that way. The Cybertruck is one of the biggest busts in, I think, automotive history. You know, it's wildly unpopular. This is a big gamble because it is such a like unusual looking vehicle. We'll just put it that way nicely. I personally think it's
and they
ugly
had
as hell,
plans
but
to sell $400 million worth of them to the State Department for.
you scuttled that, Ryan.
That was scuttled.
You big old meanie. And in any case, so yeah, this was all very predictable on the Elon front. Now, there's another piece that came out in the Wall Street Journal, which is also kind of interesting. This is also not surprising. In fact, I'm disappointed in myself. I didn't see this coming. But, you know, they announced this big AI deal in the UAE. Put the Wall Street Journal piece up on the screen here, guys. And apparently, and this is, you know, with OpenAI, which is Sam Altman's deal. Elon hates Sam. They started OpenAI together. I mean, Elon is actually right in this dispute.
Yeah, I'm Team Elon here.
Yeah, and because the idea of OpenAI is going to be open source, it's going to be nonprofit. And then Altman was like, yeah, how about we make it closed source and for profit? Is basically the contours of what happened. I'm sure Sam would dispute that, you know, characterization. But
Not
that's
really.
basically what happened.
Yeah.
So in any case, Elon tried behind the scenes to block Sam from getting this big AI deal in the Middle East. And
Or at least get in on it, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. And David Sachs, they were all aware that Musk was very unhappy. Musk was back-channeling to these Gulf countries and saying, like, this isn't going to go through unless you include XAI, which is his thing, unless you include us in on the deal. And they were like, no, we're not going to do that. And the White House was like, yeah, and we're going to go forward without you. So
Ouch.
Elon did everything he could and even decided he was going to, because he found out Sam was going to be on the trip. So he decides, I'm going to go on the trip then too.
Sat right behind MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, at the Riyadh summit. Like all the time you're looking at MBS going like this to Trump.
Yes.
Every time he would say something complimentary about him. There's Elon sitting right behind
there.
him. Yeah.
And, you know, the White House sort of brainstormed, okay, well, how do we keep Elon from getting totally pissed off about this? But they went forward with the deal in spite of the fact. Now, apparently, some of the terms are still not totally locked in, et cetera, et cetera. But pretty significant and, I think, illuminating snub of Elon in an area that he really cares deeply about, which is the combination of, you know, the development of AI, which he is all in on the race along with these other players, and on his hatred of Sam Altman. In fact, I don't know if you remember last time Elon piped up about being unhappy about Stargate and its partnership with OpenAI and partnership with Sam Altman. Trump got asked about it, and he said, Elon, one of the people he happens to hate, but I have certain hatreds of people too.
Yeah.
Trump well understands the dynamics here.
We all hate somebody.
I have certain hatreds of people too.
Elon hates this guy.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Just one other piece that we wanted to make sure and get in the show is we're talking about going back to the big beautiful bill, which is still like flew through the House. I guess there's some questions about whether or not it's going to get through the Senate. I personally think they're probably going to figure it out. I don't know, Ryan, what's your read on that?
I think they'll pass it. Yeah. But when do we want to talk about 70302? Should we do that now real quick?
Yeah, that's what I was going to go back to.
Go ahead.
That's what I was going to go back to. So there's one provision in here that we really wanted to flag for you guys that could be very significant as we're talking about all these court cases that are really trimming the sails of the Trump administration and undercutting their more maximalist and unpopular, frankly, parts of their agenda. There's a provision in the big beautiful bill that would undercut the ability of courts to hold the executive specifically accountable. This guy did a great TikTok. His handle on TikTok is BrinODC, explaining what this provision is and how it works and why it's important. Let's go ahead and take a listen to a little bit of that. This is B2, guys.
Let's break down what Section 70302 says. Courts may not use appropriated funds. This is a budget bill, so everything's about money, right? This is basically saying courts are not allowed to do whatever we're talking about. Courts may not enforce contempt citations for failure to comply with injunctions, which is the only way that you enforce injunctions or TROs. So, courts may not enforce injunctions or TROs if no security or security deposit was given when the injunction was issued, pursuant to Federal Rule 65C. Okay, what does this mean? Let's go look at Federal Rule 65C. Most of 65C says that all preliminary injunctions and TROs have to have a security deposit. So basically, nothing would apply here, right? Unless they involve the federal government. The federal government does not have to put down a security deposit. So what are we saying here? Cannot enforce a TRO or a preliminary injunction unless there's a security deposit, which the federal government doesn't do. Cannot enforce a TRO or preliminary injunction against the U.S. government. Remember, this is a law against the court. So by government, we're mostly talking about Congress and the executive branch, but especially the executive branch. The executive branch is the part that does stuff fast. This is where TRO and preliminary injunctions come in, most often. So essentially, the executive branch can do anything it wants, and the court can't stop them.
So, Ryan, that seems pretty significant.
Yes, and so my wife actually sent me that one, and I was like, oh yeah, I hadn't seen this. I looked it up. Yep, it's right there in the bill. I talked to a senior Senate Democrat and asked, like, have you noticed that this is making the rounds on TikTok? Is this something the caucus is concerned about? And he said, yes, we are watching this, and that his understanding is that it would be non-bird rule compliant, to go back to some...
Oh my God. They think that's going to stop it? Please.
Well, if the bird rule basically says if something does policy, it can't be in a reconciliation bill. Because you should be able to filibuster it. It would require 60 votes. And so the entire thing goes through what they call a bird bath.
Right.
And so when this goes into the bird bath, they think the parliamentarian will say, hey, this is policy. Like, you're writing it as a budget thing because you're involving money, but clearly this is policy.
Yeah.
As he laid out, this would be a new policy. You can't basically enforce court orders.
Right.
And so Republicans could then overrule the parliamentarian by voting.
Yes, which they already have proven willing to do.
Proven willing to do. But the role of the parliamentarian is to give parties an excuse to do things. And so that's how Democrats use the parliamentarian. God, man, would we love to pay you guys $15 an hour.
Yeah, parliamentarians.
This lady right over here.
Sorry,
can't do
we'll
it.
try
Sorry,
again.
can't do it.
Yeah.
But you guys can vote to overrule. Okay, next order of business. So just move on and put the blame over here. Republicans may do the same thing.
Really?
Because Republican senators may not want Trump to have unfettered power.
I don't see any sign of that.
We'll see.
I don't see any sign of
maybe
that.
maybe you're right.
Feel
So
like they're
this
so
will be
bought in
interesting.
at this point.
It'll be a very interesting question.
Yeah, because I mean, in Trump 1.0, you had, I would think there were more, right, who would want to secretly constrain Trump. Maybe. I mean, I guess it's possible. Certainly, many of them didn't like the tariffs, right, as an example. But also the pressure's being taken off with the tariffs. So I don't know. It will be an interesting test to see, but I don't have any confidence that they actually want to rein him in. I just don't see any sign of that.
We'll see.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.